Thanks for tuning in. I'm Michael Watson, and this is the InfluenceWatch podcast. In this episode, the Congressional far left reshuffles its staff, Wikipedia is called out for whitewashing the history of the Communist Party USA, and more union officials face the music for scandals in the National United Auto Workers and the Chicago Teamsters Union. Saikat Chakrabarty, a former Silicon Valley startup businessman who became a left-wing political activist and most recently chief of staff to controversial U.S. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, will be leaving his position to take a position with New Consensus, a far-left environmentalist group leading the campaign for the, quote, radical top-down socialist makeover of the entire U.S. economy, close quote, known as the Green New Deal. Observers noted that Chakrabarty, formerly head of the left-wing pressure group Justice Democrats, which had vowed to launch primary challenges against House Democrats it found insufficiently zealous, had become a target for Democratic leadership, especially after he viscerally attacked Democrats who had agreed to a border crisis aid bill as new Southern Democrats. While all parties denied that Chakrabarty was dismissed under pressure from leadership, and Representative Ocasio-Cortez insisted he left on good terms, she criticized his commentary for being divisive in an interview given after his departure. According to the Washington Examiner, the Federal Election Commission had also received a complaint regarding the practices of Justice Democrats in the related brand new Congress, both PACs set up by Chakrabarty, for allegedly using LLCs to avoid making certain disclosures. A lawyer for the PAC denied wrongdoing, and the complaint was filed by a conservative group. An FEC spokesperson told the Examiner the agency could not discuss the status of ongoing reviews. Observers noted that Chakrabarty's departure to New Consensus certainly looked like a power play by House Democratic leadership and a demotion for Chakrabarty. Conservative blogger Alapundit dryly compared it to, quote, a right-winger going off to work on a balanced budget amendment. 2019 marks the 100th anniversary of the founding of the Communist Party USA, the longtime Soviet intelligence-backed political pressure group on the extreme left of American politics. My colleague Ken Braun took a look at the group's Wikipedia page and then offered an important history lesson to fill in some of the holes in the narrative. As of Thursday, August 8, 2019, Wikipedia profiles can be updated at any time by anyone. First, consider the founding of the CPUSA itself. While Wikipedia chalked the formation up to a split in the Socialist Party of America following the Russian Revolution, Braun notes that the CPUSA was founded by the merger of two American communist factions at the direction of the first Soviet dictator, Vladimir Lenin. Then there was the case of longtime CPUSA leader Earl Browder, who led the party through its 1930s peak through the end of World War II. His name appeared on the Wikipedia page 3 times, and it omitted any mention of Browder recruiting spies for the KGB and Soviet military intelligence, though it does note that, quote, the CPUSA also used a covert apparatus to assist the Soviets with their intelligence activities in the United States. Interestingly, the lead section of Earl Browder's biographical page on Wikipedia notes that he, quote, took part in treasonous activities on behalf of Soviet intelligence in America during his period of party leadership. Browder's page likewise includes a section on his, quote, espionage activities, including how the declassified Venona decrypts implicated the CPUSA boss in Soviet intelligence recruitment. Meanwhile, back on the main CPUSA page, the whitewash continues. In the 1930s, as Soviet propaganda went from harshly anti-Nazi Germany before 1939 to far less hostile after the Molotov-Ribbentrop Non-Aggression Pact, the CPUSA swung its position in alignment with Moscow Center, at great cost to its membership numbers, since many American recruits were fierce anti-Nazis. The CPUSA page, on the other hand, doesn't mention the shift. Braun writes, quote, the hit to party membership after the betrayal of the Nazi-Soviet agreement doesn't figure in the CPUSA wiki entry. Indeed, the Nazi-Soviet Pact, one of the last century's most important events, isn't mentioned at all. And in our final item, last week we noted with interest the guilty plea of former Chicago Teamsters boss John T. Coley to corruption offenses and his agreement to cooperate with prosecutors. In episode 77, we suggested that the ongoing federal investigations into corruption in the United Auto Workers might have contributed to the union's defeat in an organizing campaign at Volkswagen in Chattanooga. This week there are important developments in both wide-ranging labor corruption probes. First, Chicago. Federal authorities charged Thomas E. Cullerton, an Illinois state senator from suburban Chicago, with taking a do-nothing job with the Teamsters local in Coley's orbit. The feds allege that Cullerton obtained fraudulent salary, benefits, and medical expense reimbursements totaling approximately $275,000 from March 2013 through February 2016. According to the government, Coley, identified as the president of Teamsters Joint Council 25, added Cullerton as an organizer for Teamsters Local 734. The union that Cullerton had been a member of before his election to the Illinois Senate. The government further alleges that Cullerton then did not perform his union duties, and that Coley ignored complaints from Teamsters Union employees who said Cullerton wasn't coming to work. Cullerton denies the charges. Shortly after his indictment, Illinois Senate leadership removed him from the chairmanship of the State Senate Labor Committee. And in Detroit, ex-United Auto Workers Vice President Norwood Jewell, who pleaded guilty to crimes related to his involvement in the wide-ranging corruption scandal in the United Auto Workers Fiat Chrysler division, learned his fate. Federal judge sentenced him to 15 months in prison. Feds alleged that Jewell had taken, quote, cigars, big steaks, first-class airfare, rounds of golf, villas, lavish entertainment, and personalized bottles of wine, despite receiving a six-figure salary from UAW dues. That's our show from this week. If you're listening to this on YouTube, we encourage you to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher. And if you have subscribed, thank you. And please leave us a 5-star rating. We'll see you next week.